Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And apparently, Sony is forming a new strategy for their consoles to basically make them more accessible to more people. In some ways, we can actually say that this has been an unprecedented generation, because if you look at the history and just how consoles are typically sold, the PS5 is really trending in the opposite direction than what we're typically used to seeing. So this new strategy seems to be a way for them to solve that issue, and we're going to get all of that today and some of my thoughts about how exactly this will work out. Now, we're also hearing about a major PlayStation 5 game that should release in 2025. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with what appears to be yet another breakout hit for Hazelight. In my opinion, they are hands down one of the best studios out there. I cannot applaud them enough, and that's exactly why I'm just so happy to see the results for their newest game, Split Fiction. For its first 24 hours, it already managed to reach a peak high of 197,000 players. And keep in mind that this is before the weekend when gamers tend to play more. You know, they're going to have more free time. And I think that's especially notable for this game specifically. You know, this is a mandatory cooperative game. So friends and family are going to have to, find time that works for both of them. In fact, I'm in that boat as well. I got my copy yesterday, but we're not going to play it until this weekend when my friend and I both have some free time. So there is actually a chance here that we could see these numbers, which are already impressive, rise even higher. I just love this studio. I think they are excellent at what they do, and let's just kind of be a lesson to the game industry as a whole. You know, this is a game that really focuses on creative fun. And unlike a lot of other studios out there, and this is something that I really want to applaud them for, is that Hazelight is very consumer-friendly. When you buy into Split Fiction, they've done this with their past games, but when you buy into Split Fiction, you're able to invite any of your friends on any platform to play with you at no additional cost. And like I said, that does include crossplay. If you buy it on PlayStation, you can still invite a friend that plays on Xbox. So I don't think there's a lot of studios out there that would be willing to do this same thing, but clearly, as we're seeing here, it's working out for Hazelight. They let the gameplay and the quality speak for itself. It's almost as if fun, creative games that puts the player first, that's not something we're used to seeing, but it's almost as if this is something that speaks to gamers. Now, unfortunately, I do have some bad news and I guess slightly better news, and then also some more bad news for anybody who likes Respawn Entertainment and Titanfall. This is another one of those studios that historically has been very good with the Titanfall series. They have the Jedi Survivor series, and of course also Apex Legends. So they've earned their reputation, and reports went out the other day that claimed that they had recently canceled a first-person shooter. So immediately, fans were kind of freaking out about this. Oh no, Titanfall 3 is never going to happen. Well, the slightly positive news here is that this canceled first-person shooter was unrelated to Titanfall. So I guess there's some hope in that aspect that they'll eventually go back to the Titanfall series. Just don't really count on that being anytime soon. I'll circle back to that in a moment. But according to Jeff Grubb, this newly canceled game was from the same team that previously canceled the Star Wars first-person shooter. Basically, it sounds like they tried to salvage their work by moving it over to an unrelated first-person shooter, and it just didn't pan out. But here's the other bit of bad news for you Titanfall fans out there. According to Jeff, they don't have a new entry in development. They're mainly working on Jedi 3 and Apex updates. However, the Titanfall 1 director has been working on a prototype of something, but whatever that ends up being, it's still years away, assuming that it will even make it out of the prototype phase at all. Clearly, we've already seen a few cancellations, so, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens. Now, we also had a showcase from Nacon yesterday where they revealed various upcoming games. Now, I'll include a link below if you want to check out everything that they revealed, but it included a new Styx game, a sequel to Edge of Eternity. There was also an update for Hell Is Us. That's a game that PlayStation has been pushing a lot. They really seem to believe in this game, but their biggest reveal was a quote-unquote sequel for 2023's Robocop Rogue City. Now, technically, outlets are calling it a sequel, but From Nakon's wordage, they do kind of make it sound like this is a smaller scale game. They're calling it both a standalone follow-up and also a standalone expansion. So with that in mind, I wouldn't go into this expecting it to be quite as big as the first game. But if you liked Rogue City, I mean, this is very welcome news. And what makes this even more exciting is that it's right around the corner. Yeah, this is planned to be a summer release when you'll be able to pick it up for Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. So yeah, you Robocop fans out there have a lot to celebrate right now. I noticed when it released back in 2023, it really was a fan favorite for that year. It might not get as much conversation as some of the higher profile releases, but I saw it pop up on a lot of people's favorite games list for 2023. So if anything else here, this expansion/sequel is a great sign that Rogue City was indeed a success, and that means that the series could have a bright future for gaming. Okay, so now let's go talk about PlayStation and this new strategy that recently did very well for them over in Japan. And now they're expanding that strategy into another region. And this is essentially a rental service, but it's not rent to own, though you can technically buy into this device at the end of the program. I'll cover all of that here in just a moment. But last month, in February, they partnered up with a retailer in Japan by the name of GEO. And together they launched a rental-like service for PlayStation devices. Now, the timing of this partnership was actually near perfect. Of course, Monster Hunter Wilds just launched, and that is a series that historically has been massive over in Japan. To say the least here, though, this is a very smart strategy by Sony and their partner because this program has been very, very successful for them. Reportedly, this service, which is provided by 400 stores in Japan, has been completely booked. And this seemingly has the attention of Sony, and probably rightfully so, because now they're introducing a similar program by the name of Flex over in the UK. What they're doing here is that they're leasing out the PlayStation 5, the PS5 Pro, the PSVR 2, and surprisingly, the PlayStation Portal as well. I mean, I guess if anything here, this would be kind of a decent way to see how the Portal reacts on your Wi-Fi setup. This is a device that I personally very much like myself, but they're leasing out all of these devices through a company by the name of Raylo. Now, I'm not from the UK, so I don't really know much about this company and how widespread they are, but they are making the PlayStation 5 a lot more accessible through this program. I mean, if you think about it this way, we're now going into year 5 of the PlayStation 5, which is really hard for me to believe. It feels like this generation has barely even begun. But the thing is that it's not really getting any cheaper. Unlike previous generations, its pricing is going in the opposite direction. It's getting more expensive with things like inflation. So, what can they do to reach more gamers? Well, one thing that they can do is they can lower its upfront cost, like we so often see in the phone market. Phones cost thousands of dollars, but in order to get rid of that upfront cost, they let you pay monthly. So Sony is launching a program kind of similar to that, and I'll include the prices on screen. As you can see, you have various different options. You can pick whichever device you want and rent it out for a single month at a higher price. The PS5 Digital, as one such example, is €22 for a single month. So, I mean, if there's just one game that you want to play, and if you think you only need a month to play it, this is an option that you could take. The PSVR 2 kind of comes into mind here. That's something that I could see people just going out and playing one specific game and then just returning said device. Now, you could also rent it for a party or a get-together or whatever, but the 36-month option is where things get really interesting. This is where the lease starts to come in. You can pay as low as €11 a month for 36 months, which at first glance is actually a pretty good price compared to just outright buying said console up front. If you were to lease it from them for 36 months, the final price would come out at €395 versus $390 if you bought it outright today. So at first glance, this comes off as a great deal, but you have to kind of keep in mind here, the drawback is that once that 36 months is up, you still don't own that device. Technically, you're supposed to return it, and if there's any kind of damage or just cosmetic wear and tear, you can and will be charged extra. You do not own this device, and that is something you need to keep in mind. Now, you can apparently negotiate a purchase when all is said and done, but I haven't really seen any information about how exactly those prices will look. I mean, Are they going to charge an extra 50 euros when all said and done? Is it going to be an extra 100 or what? As far as I'm aware, we don't currently have that information, and I think that's an important detail to know here. I mean, this is a program that's meant to make PlayStation devices more accessible, and it will be enticing for customers who don't want to pay that high upfront cost, and I think it's good in that regard. But depending on just how they handle that final month and its pricing, that could also determine just how good of a deal this actually is for anybody who wants, some hope of something a little bit more permanent at the end of the day. If anything else here, though, I do like that PlayStation is doing this. It's really just an extra option for customers, and hey, I'm all for that. All right, one last thing before we go. I got a quick update for Death Stranding 2. According to Bilbo Kuhn, which is really one of the most accurate leakers out there, he said that several physical editions of the game are in preparation. Now, this includes a standard $70 version and also a collector's edition for $230. Now, he doesn't know the exact time when pre-orders are going to go live, but he estimates that it will be sometime in March. Now, the reason that this information is important is really for a few different reasons, but mainly because Hideo Kojima will be at the SXSW 2025 festival for this Thursday with a special Death Stranding 2 panel. In fact, what makes this even more interesting is that his good friend Jeff Keighley is teasing its YouTube stream and said that you definitely will not want to miss this one. So, I mean, I think with all of this information, we might get some kind of an announcement here in the coming days. I mean, even if it's just a tease of a soonish reveal, there definitely seems to be a Death Stranding 2 reveal for some time soon. This is also a great indication that it will in fact release in 2025, and it's not gonna miss its target. PlayStation doesn't exactly have a lot of confirmed release dates for this year so far, but Death Stranding 2 could be the first domino, and in fact, there's also rumors about a God of War reveal this month as well. So if both these turns out to be true, we very well could leave March with 2 new PlayStation game announcements. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.